Hey everyone, so I'm back again. My name is Miles. I'm with Exotic Carsmith Automotive Maintenance and Custom Fabrication School. And today we are going to be working on that same Mitsubishi Lancer again. And we're just going to be doing a basic oil change. Nothing special. Just show you guys how to do a quick oil change. You can generally do it within half an hour and it will cost you 30 bucks or so. So definitely save you a lot of money compared to what a mechanic or any oil and lube shop will charge you. So let's get to it. All right, so here's what you're going to need. You're obviously going to need a jack and some jack stands to support the car so you can work under it safely. Fresh oil filter, some kind of oil filter wrenches, basic toolkit, and just for cleanup, you're going to need some paper towels, some brake cleaner or any kind of a solvent really, and rubber gloves. Because, well, let's face it, used engine oil is kind of nasty and you don't really want to be getting it on your hands if you can avoid it. And then cleaning up, whatever solvent you're using or brake cleaner that you're using, you definitely don't want to be getting that on your hands. So yeah, this is just the basic stuff that you're going to need. Nothing special. Like I said, just a basic toolkit. So let's get the car up in the air, and we'll resume the video once it's jacked up and supported on some jack stands. All right, so here we are. The car is jacked up. It is supported on jack stands, as you can see, so we can be under here and work on it safely. If you will look up here, this right here is the engine oil pan. That is what holds the engine supply of oil, and that is what we will be changing. So the drain plug for the engine oil is right back here. It will generally be on the back side of the engine oil pan, and I know you cannot see it right here right now, but the oil filter is right up here. It's right behind the engine oil pan, and it depends on the car. A lot of cars it will be underneath where it's easily accessible. A lot of European cars have it on top of the engine, just right under the hood, like Volkswagen, I believe Mercedes also. So that you need to remove from the top of the engine. And the neat thing about that system is that if you have a vacuum engine oil system, you can actually vacuum all the engine oil out from the engine oil dipstick from the top of the engine, so you never have to jack up the car at all off the ground. You can do the whole job just from under the hood while the car is sitting on the ground. But like I said, most engines, most cars, especially American-made cars, will all have the oil filter underneath the engine where it's accessible from the ground. So let me get set up here and we will get the oil drained and get the oil filter changed. All right, so here we are all set up. We have an engine oil drain pan right here, which is something you're definitely going to need. Otherwise, you're just going to drain it underground and make a big mess. So you need a good engine oil drain pan. You're going to need a ratchet and a socket to get the drain plug off, or just a basic regular wrench will work. This one is a 17 millimeter, which is a pretty common size, especially on Japanese and European cars. So let's get the drain plug off and get the oil drained. There we go. And it's a good idea to have some paper towels ready so you can clean up the oil plug, drain plug, because it is going to be wet. And you don't want to be dripping oil all over the floor. So yeah, just wipe it off. And there you go. That is the engine oil drain plug. And we're just going to wait a few minutes, wait for all that oil to drain. I did warm up the engine a little bit before we started. You don't want to get it too hot because you obviously don't want to burn yourself, but it does help to warm it up a little bit. Makes the oil flow much better and drain out a lot easier, a lot faster. So as you can see, it is already almost done. We're just going to give it a few more seconds here. That is the one kind of a pain in the butt thing. Once you start getting to this point where it's just a tiny little trickle, if it's a windy day, it's going to blow that trickle all over the place and you're going to get oil splatter everywhere. Alright, so for the sake of this video, these last little bits of oil do take a while to completely drain out. You don't really need to do all that. This is, 99% of the oil has already been drained out. So for the sake of the video, I'm just going to put the plug back in so we can get going on the rest of it. Okay. And you want to make sure you tighten that down so you don't forget to tighten it later. Okay, clean up this little drip. Okay, now we're going to remove the engine oil filter. Now the thing with the engine oil filter, it is full of oil, and so are the passages leading down into the oil filter. So when you take it off, it's going to drain all that oil out. So there is a trick to it. You can take a hammer and a Phillips screwdriver and knock a hole in the bottom of the oil filter, and that will allow it to drain. But for the sake of this video, just so I can show you what it's like when you take an engine oil filter off, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let it drain. Okay, this right here is a very useful oil filter wrench. It will fit pretty much any size engine oil filter, or any size of filter that you might need to remove. So one of these comes in very handy. Okay, now that it's loose, we're just going to spin it off, and as you can see, it's draining. And if you were wearing a glove, you'd be getting that all over your hands. We're just going to let that drain out. Okay, and we're going to clean up that filter flange a little bit. I'm going to try to show you what the filter flange looks like. And there it is. That is what the oil filter mounts to. And we will resume the video in just a second. There's a couple of things we need to do before we install the oil filter on the car. Okay, so here we have the new oil filter. Now before you install that filter, there's a couple of things you want to do. One, it helps to fill it with a little bit of oil. That way, when you go to start the engine up, you're not running it without any engine oil for as long as you would if that oil filter had to fill itself. Next thing you want to do is take some of that clean engine oil and you want to rub it on the gasket. You want to make sure that gasket is nice and covered with engine oil so that it seals easily when you put it back up on that flange. Okay, that should be about good. So let's get back onto the car and install this filter and finish with this entire oil change. Alright, so here we go. Back underneath the car, where any good mechanic belongs. And we're just going to spin this oil filter back on that flange. Okay, now you do want to get this tight, but you only want to do it hand tight. You do not want to take that oil filter wrench and try to tighten this filter back on. There you go. Just hand tight. That's all you need. Okay, clean up a little bit. Wipe everything off. And we are done under the car. Okay, so like I said, we are done under the car. Next step is to refill the engine oil. But for that, we are going to have to drop it on the ground because you need to have it sitting on the ground and level in order to check the engine oil level appropriately. Otherwise, your reading will be off and you may overfill the engine. So I'll get this car back on the ground and then we will refill the engine oil. All right, so here we're going to refill the crankcase with fresh oil. You do want to make sure that you're using the correct viscosity oil. This this manufacturer recommends a 5W20 oil. The specifications for that, for what viscosity you need, you will find in your owner's manual. If for whatever reason you're missing the owner's manual, you can always Google it. It's not that hard to find what engine oil is required for your car. If you can't find it, just ask them at the auto parts store. They'll be able to tell you. And one little tip as far as cleanup, because right now, you have a drain pan full of 4.5 quarts of used engine oil. You do need to recycle that oil. You can't just dump it anywhere. Every auto parts store will recycle your used engine oil. So the convenient thing, whenever I can, I try to buy engine oil in these big 5-gallon jugs. That way, once you refill the crankcase, you can just put the old engine oil back into this container and take that back to the auto parts store. It makes it very convenient, very easy. Yeah, that's about that's about all I need to say about that, I guess. So let's refill this crankcase. And you do want to use a funnel, because you obviously don't want to be spilling that engine oil everywhere. And it can get a little bit tricky on some cars. The filler caps are small, or they're kind of in inconvenient positions. So it can get kind of tricky to pour the engine oil in without spilling it everywhere. Now you do want to make sure you do not overfill your engine crankcase. So once you're getting a little bit closer to it being full, take the time, grab a paper towel, pull the dipstick, and just check the engine oil level. Make sure that you're not overfilling it. Some cars will take 4 quarts, some 4.5 quarts, some 5 quarts. You'll be able to find that out in your owner's manual also. And this one needs a little bit more. Check it one more time. All right, and that is exactly full. So we'll take that out. Put the oil cap on. Now you do want to start the engine and let it run for just a few seconds, just to let the engine oil circulate a little bit, fill all the passages, and then check the engine oil level again. And if you need to add a little bit more, go ahead and add a little bit more. So that's it. That is your basic oil change. Give me just a second here to clean up a bit. All right, so that was a basic oil change. Very quick, very easy. Anybody can do it. Just basic set of tools and an oil filter wrench. I'm not going to bore you with the entire cleanup process, because that's just basically pouring the old oil back into that container and wiping everything off. Use the brake cleaner to make sure to try to to get everything as clean as possible. I do tend to be a bit of a clean freak as far as my tools, my equipment, so I tend to spend a lot more time cleaning than a lot of mechanics do, but I think that's a great habit to get into. Nothing worse than having to use dirty tools and dirty equipment. So I hope you enjoyed this quick little video. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, and as I always say, we're going to be having a lot more content coming. Once we get our permanent shop open, which I'm hoping will be in the next few months, we will be adding videos, a lot more interesting videos on custom fabrication and restoration, practices. So I do hope that you join us and stick with us for the long haul. And I look forward to talking with you in our next video. Have a good evening.